The North Sea lay dark and heavy beneath the April sky of 1940. A fleet of German warships moved through the fog, silent and tense, their decks slick with cold spray. On the chart tables below, Norway stretched like a jagged blade pointing toward Britain. To most of Europe, the country seemed irrelevant, neutral, quiet, far from the battlefields of Poland and France. But to Adolf Hitler, Norway was the key to survival. If Germany lost access to the iron ore that arrived through Norwegian ports, its war machine would grind to a halt. He could not afford to let that happen. In Berlin, Hitler's War Council debated the plan. Some generals warned that invading Norway would stretch their navy too thin. Others argued that Britain was already eyeing the same coast. Hitler listened, unmoved. He saw war as a contest of nerve. Sweden's rich iron fields supplied the steel that built his tanks and planes. In winter, when the Baltic Sea froze, that ore traveled by rail to Narvik, a northern Norwegian port that remained ice-free year-round. If Britain blocked that route, Germany's lifeline would be severed. Norway, neutral or not, had become essential to the Reich. But there was more. Norway's coastline was a natural fortress, a maze of fjords that could shelter U-boats and battleships. From those deep, hidden waters, the German Navy could strike Allied convoys bound for Britain and the Arctic. The country's airfields would give the Luftwaffe a base to dominate the North Sea. To control Norway meant to control the Northern Front, the gateway between the Atlantic and the Arctic. Hitler saw what others missed. Geography was strategy. Across the Channel, the British were already planning their own move. Winston Churchill, then First Lord of the Admiralty, wanted to mine Norway's coastal waters to block German shipping. British forces even considered occupying Norwegian ports to protect them from Germany. The idea of British troops so close to his northern flank terrified Hitler. He decided to strike first. Operation Weserübung, Weser exercise, was born. Before dawn on April 9, 1940, German destroyers entered Oslofjord. Paratroopers seized key airports around Oslo and Stavanger. Simultaneous attacks hit Narvik, Bergen, and Trondheim. The invasion moved fast, stunning the Norwegians, who had barely begun to mobilize. At first, King Haakon VII refused to believe Germany would attack without warning. When the German envoy demanded surrender, the king refused. His defiance became a symbol of resistance, even as the country was overrun. The Allies responded, sending British, French, and Polish troops to help. They landed in the north, fighting side by side with Norwegian forces. At Narvik, they achieved a rare early victory, pushing German mountain troops out of the town. For a brief moment, it seemed the tide could turn. But then, everything changed. Germany invaded France, and the Allies rushed south to save it. The troops in Norway were withdrawn. By early June, Norway was alone. Oslo fell. The king fled to London. The occupation began. Hitler got what he wanted. The iron ore routes stayed open. The German Navy gained access to Norway's fjords and ports. U-boats began to operate from Trondheim and Bergen, hunting Allied convoys across the Atlantic. The long coastline became a defensive wall against a northern invasion. Yet, it was a fragile victory. The Norwegian resistance grew stronger each year. Sabotage operations crippled German industry, most famously the attacks on the heavy water plant at Vemork, which delayed Nazi efforts to develop atomic weapons. Norway remained under occupation until May 1945. When the war ended, the country emerged battered but proud, its flag raised again over Oslo. For Hitler, Norway had been a strategic necessity, part of his plan to dominate Europe and the seas around it. But in the end, it became another symbol of overreach, of how fear and ambition drove his decisions. The invasion of Norway was not just about territory, it was about control of resources, of geography, of fate itself.